Welcome to Deja View, where we're flashing back over 17 years of programming on the school channel. I'm your host, and say it with me,
Resident Old Guy,
Gary Kramer, and with me are Amy Marsh.
Hi.
And Diane Stowe.
Hi.
And today we're going to focus on a show that was only on the school channel for 1 year in 1993, I believe it was. One of the most interesting shows we've ever tried to do, The Spice Show. But before we add some spice to our life, I have a report. A couple of weeks ago, we did a show from the 1988 Looking Forward, Looking Back with Randy Moore and Cecile Chioco. And as part of that show, there was a feature package on Richard McCowan, the artist with the studio on Gray Street who focused on horses and cows and that screaming polo ball. Okay, does everyone remember what I'm talking about? And at the end of that package, I said, well, I had lost touch with Richard and wondered what he was up to. And guess what? He called. Okay, small world. Richard McCowan has been out of Norman for 10 years, but the week that we feature him on Deja View, he was back in town. And so he gave me a call and has brought me up to date on things going on in his life, and what a story he had to tell. What a life this man has led. Talk about your romantic artist. This guy is the epitome of that. He left from Norman High as an artist. He went to Kansas to study art. While he was there, he received a fellowship to the Yale School of Art.
Wow.
And he went and studied at Yale on a fellowship, studied painting. He married a girl he met here in Norman who was here as an exchange student from France. So guess where he ended up? France. He moved to France to be an artist. How appropriate. Of course you would go to France to be an artist. And he was there for more than 4 years working on his art. And he's come back to help out with the family business. He and his dad and his brother are home builders here in town. And he is only here for a while because he told me he's going to go back east and study painting some more, get a master's degree in art, and perhaps become a teacher or art historian, something like that. So congratulations, Richard. He also mentioned, I had mentioned the piece he has up at Remington Park, the big purple horse that you saw in that feature. He also has a sculpture in Primrose Funeral Home. So if you ever have an occasion to be there and you see the sculpture of Mr. Primrose, that was done by Richard. He now has a studio here in town over by Norman High North, Longfellow Middle School. He says he's living in a warehouse and working on his art there. In fact, one of his pieces will be auctioned off. So if you want to have an original piece of artwork done by Richard McCowan, go to the gala on December 7th, and they will be auctioning off a piece of Richard's as a fundraiser. So, and I also mentioned that his class will be having their 10-year reunion this summer. That indeed is true. In fact, Richard will stay in town long enough to help organize that event. And he's going to stop by and see us because he's giving some instruction to the art class here at Norman High School.
Wow.
So his connection here at the high school remains, and we're happy to have Richard McCowan back in our lives and back on our campus and back in our town. And so Deja View paid off. We're reunited with Richard McCowan from 10 years ago, and it's nice to know that Norman High graduates do go out and make good in the very things that they study while they're here on campus. So thank you, Richard, for giving us a call. And thank you, all the people who called Richard and told him to call me, because that lets us know that you're watching Deja View. Now, to the business at hand. We're going to focus on a show that was the precursor of the Good Company program, but in 1993, it was a whole class of superheroes, one of the most unusual programs we've ever attempted here on the school channel, and it went through a process of change over the course of the year. We're going to document that change on today's edition of Deja View.
In 1994, SPICE, which stands for Social, Physical, Intellectual, Cultural, and Emotional Health, was a Channel 29 show for elementary students. Many of the segments for the show had a lasting effect on the school channel. SPICE incorporated the Norman Super Students list as well as Pack It On with Sean Wildman, a weekly physical workout that influences even this year's Good Company. But if you don't, that's okay.
Add some spice to your life. Watch Norman and Spice on the school channel, cable 29.
Welcome to Spice. I'm Jimmy and this is Anna.
This week's show is going to be great. First up, we have Pack It On with Sean Wildman, and we'll be working on our backs. We have a fun workout game with Donna Hale, and then we have Mr. Leaf back to show us again how to put shadows on our letters. We'll have the Kennedy kids to show us how to make a banana shake. Then we have something new this week. It's a new segment called Norman List, saluting all the Norman Public School kids that are great.
This week is homecoming, so on Thursday we are going to a parade with Norman and the Spice Kids and Sean Wildman, so be there.
We'll be back in a moment with Sean Wildman after this. We're back this week with Sean Wildman, and we're working on our backs, so you pump it up while we pump it up.
Welcome back to Pack It On with Sean Wildman. Spice represents the 5 aspects of health. I'm going to ask you a few questions today, okay?
All right.
What do you do for your social aspect?
Let's see. Socially, I try to spend as much time as I can with my girlfriend and friends and family.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious what you do for your physical side. Is there anything else that you do?
Not really. I just mainly train for lifting weights.
Okay. Oh, what about your intellectual?
Intellectual. Right now, I'm a senior at Norman High, and in the future, I'd like to go to college.
Okay, well, I think everybody should have those kind of goals.
Sure.
What about your cultural?
Cultural. In bodybuilding, there are drug-free bodybuilders, and there are people that prefer to use drugs. Myself, I'm a drug-free bodybuilder, and I think everyone should be that way.
Oh, yeah. What about your emotional?
Emotional, like I said about people that use drugs in bodybuilding, they tend to be kind of upset at themselves because they're not really reaching their goals naturally. Myself, I feel pretty good about myself because I know I'm reaching my goals naturally.
Oh, yeah. Well, I would be too if I were you.
Well, thanks.
What are we working on today?
Today we're going to work on the back. We're going to start with bent over rows.
Okay.
All you need is a chair and a book bag. Okay. The first exercise is bent over rows to keep your legs bent and keep your back straight. And we're going to do 3 sets of 10. Ready? 1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, let's go and stretch out your back real quick. Okay, let's do another set. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One more. 10. Alright, stretch it. Okay, let's do our last set. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and one more. 10. Okay, next we're going to use the chair. It's basically the same exercise except it's working your lower back right through here. I'm just going to get a good grip on your bag. Kind of getting a bent kind of stance like this, and we're just going to pull them up. Ready? For 10. 1, 2, pull it up right to your waist. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, same thing with the other side. Get a good grip. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and one more. 10. That's it for back.
All right, man, is that it?
Yeah, that's all.
I had a heavy bag. My arms are about to die. I'm looking forward to see you next week with Sean Wildman and Pack It On.
That was a look at the beginning of the SPICE show, standing for Help Me Social, Physical, Intellectual, Cultural, and Emotional Health. Now, the focus of that show was overall health and well-being, and so each week we tried to focus on each one of those 5 aspects of overall health. Lots of people to talk about after that clip. We'll start with Sean Wildman, who was Mr. Teenage Oklahoma that year, and he was a student here at Norman High. And although he was not a member of the class that produced SPICE, he came in and did the Pack It On workout, which evolved into the book bag workout that has been part of Good Company and SPICE ever since. So we appreciate the work that Mr. Wildman did with us, and working out with him were 2 wrestlers from Norman High that year, Sam Cesana and Brent Surplus. And there were wrestlers in SPICE because you also noticed the little SPICE superhero outfits that they had to wear, and so wrestlers seem to be more comfortable in an outfit like that. Compared to the singlets that they wear when they wrestle, they were quite modest. And they were good role models for the students who were watching SPICE. The program was targeted towards elementary students. That segment was introduced by Jimmy Sanderson, who was also a wrestler, and Anna McKendry, who was one of the SPICE superheroes, who went on to be in Good Company and then went on from there to be a multimedia cablevision ringmaster. So she's been working to promote overall health in the Norman community since her days as a Norman superhero. So let's see what else SPICE was up to in 1993-94.
Mr. Leaf, the art teacher at Norman High, had a regular segment on SPICE. Artist in residence and fiber artist Pam Husky was here working with the Norman High art students on felt making when Mr. Leaf caught up with her.
Hello, Normanites. It's Mr. Leaf again here. This segment of SPICE, I'm going to introduce you to a guest artist that we have here at Norman High working with us today, Pam Husky. She's a fiber artist, and she's doing what we call an artist in residency right now here at Norman High. And she's working with 3 of my classes, and this is kind of a unique opportunity, and I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see some of the things we're doing, and perhaps you might even be able to come to your school at some point. I'd like to introduce you to her, Pam Husky. She's a fiber artist here, and right now, could you tell us a little bit about the things that are going on that you're working with my classes?
At Norman High School, we are doing felt making. And felt making is the process of taking the wool fiber and treating it with heat and pressure so that the wool fibers stick together into a dense blanket or mat. And we're using this in your art classes to do pieces that have interesting surface designs. We're using dyed fibers and yarns on the surface to give all different sorts of line and contour and surface designing with these pieces. And we're also working with the advanced clothing design classes here at Norman High School, and those classes are using the pieces of felt that they've constructed to make bags and purses and vests, and some shoes are being done in the class. So you can work in felt in three-dimensional ways as well as on a flat surface. The felt making process is not anything that I invented. This is not new business. This skill dates back to the Stone Age, around 10,000 years ago. So it's a very, very ancient technique, and we're just reintroducing it. It's very much like working with clay. It's a very plastic material. You can make three-dimensional forms with it. You can shape it.
Now, for the students at home, when we say the word plastic, it means that it'll move and bend and shape, not necessarily the word plastic as we might think of a
It's
plastic
malleable.
cup.
It's malleable.
Okay.
You can shape it.
Okay.
It's all made out of the raw wool fiber, and the wool fiber is raised right here in Oklahoma. In fact, at Tecumseh, Leslie Johnson grows the caracal sheep, which is an ancient breed of wool that comes from Turkey and Afghanistan, that part of the world.
Okay.
So we're using some interesting fiber that is locally produced, as well as making these pieces out of skills that are very, very old.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to see if I can't run through that process that our students have been. You can correct me if I go wrong somewhere here. We start out with the wool, and it has been carded. That's one of the words we learned.
It's been combed to straighten out the fibers. That helps in both hand spinning the fibers and in the felt making process.
Okay, and then the students will take that off and lay that in layers on a piece of material.
That's correct. What we're doing is building 4 alternating direction layers of wool. And the purpose of this is so that we don't get holes or spaces in between the different pieces in the final product. We have a solid piece, a dense blanket of wool that can be used to form things.
So they get this wool and they put it in the layers, and then they get some colored wool and put on top, and then we fold the fabric over it and pin it, and then there's a real interesting process that takes place at that point, and I know the students have really enjoyed doing that. We use hot water. It needs to be hot, right? And they need to put pressure, and so they'll press it and twist it and put pressure on it. And I noticed we're using soap. I was trying to remember what the purpose of the soap was.
We put a little bit of soap on there just to reduce the texture as we're moving our hands across the surface of it and squeezing it and rolling it to put pressure on the piece of felt fabric. Then we're actually just putting the soap on there to reduce the friction of our hands as it moves around. We don't want to move the raw fibers. These are thousands of individual fibers, and we don't want to move those fibers around, changing the design that we've laid on there until after it's all stuck together. The process is actually one where the wool fibers, which have scales on their surface, when treated with heat in the form of the hot water that we're using, those scales swell open, and then when we put pressure on the fabric that we're making, squeezing it and rolling it and kneading it with our hands, those scales that are opened up begin to stick onto one another. They grab hold of one another, and they become so interlocked that they can't be pulled apart.
So that's how the wool ends up coming together, and you have a little design, and you can then open up the sheet of fabric, and you have a design.
That's right, yeah.
All right, it's a very interesting process, and if you guys get an opportunity to have Pam come to your school, I would recommend it. We've had a lot of fun with it, and we'll see you guys next week on Spice.
That was a look at felt making with Pam Husky, who is an artist in residence visiting our campus that year, and the new Norman High art teacher from 1993-94, John Leaf, who came over every week and gave a little bit of instruction in art. Sometimes it would be draw along, you know, because this was targeted towards elementary kids, and he taught us how to do block letters and how to do shading and how to do visual textures. And he was one of the cultural components for SPICE, which again was social, physical, intellectual, cultural, and emotional health and well-being. That was the focus of the program. And we appreciated the work that Mr. Leaf did with us every week, and he continues to be a staunch supporter of the studio. It might be because we're neighbors. His art studio is right next to the television studio, so we see Mr. Leaf all the time and continue to get good ideas from him.
SPICE was all about balanced living, and in 1994, the superheroes explored all sides of life while visiting a children's kung fu class. Kung fu allows children to learn self-defense as well as control, and all the children, along with the SPICE superheroes, got to have a little fun in the process.
Hi, I'm Andrea Springer.
And I'm Mark Soto, and thank you for joining us on this edition of All New, All For You, It's All Spice. Each week on our show, we try to tell you about new and exciting events happening in your school or around your town.
Every time you decide to try out one of the activities featured here on Allspice, you'll be getting into the good habit of leading a balanced life. Now, the Spice superheroes worked hard this week to come up with one activity that met all 5 requirements for balanced living: social, physical, intellectual, cultural, and emotional.
This week, our zany superheroes decided to pick Kung Fu classes for kids. Ha! Now, kids take Kung Fu classes because they're fun and also because they need to learn how to protect themselves. Last December, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children reported over 5,000 missing children around America. That's pretty scary.
But they don't just disappear. Bad adults often steal children away from their families. For instance, last year, a man broke into a home where a group of 12-year-old girls were having a slumber party, and he kidnapped one of the girls. She never returned home again. Now, you just have to ask yourself that if those girls had learned self-defense, how things could have changed. Maybe it could have turned out a little bit differently. It's very important for boys and girls to learn how to do self-defense. So let's join the Spice superheroes to learn exactly what Kung Fu is all about.
Hi, I'm Sally the Emotional Hero, and with me is...
Sifu Stephen Beaver with Kung Fu Incorporated here in Norman, Oklahoma.
And what do you do?
I teach kids Kung Fu.
Oh, so you obviously like to teach kids. Why don't you teach in the school system?
That's a good point. Reason being is the school system does a very good job of teaching kids their ABCs, their math, things of that nature. What we get on is the self-defense, the discipline, the respect, the coordination, the confidence, things of that nature. That's where we like to really specialize in.
Wow, it sounds like fun. You think the superheroes could join your class today?
Certainly.
Great, let's get started.
Not that. Not that. 1, 2. 1, 2. Chop. 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 All right, here we go. Go. Go.
That was Spice visiting a Kung Fu studio with elementary students, and there are some people we need to talk about because, as you noticed, that clip was introduced by some older-looking people. Actually, that was Andrea Springer, who was one of the Multimedia Cablevision ringmasters, and if she looked familiar to you, it's because she was the prom date in the Rocky and Clay video that we've shown on here before, and with her was Mark Soto, who was a graduate of Norman High School and is now a professional baseball player. And he spent some time being a Red Ribbon Man during Red Ribbon Week celebrations here in town. But Andrew and Mark would come over from the University of Oklahoma to be hosts of Spice and add a little bit of maturity and research to what was going on there. And so we appreciated the work that they did. Also, Sally Sabisky was the person interviewing the Kung Fu teacher, and I just got a postcard from her. She's also in Europe. She's spending a semester abroad studying in Europe, and it was nice of her to think of us and send us a postcard. So those Spice Kids continue to be nice people.
The Zambian a cappella chorus toured Norman in 1994, stopping at both Central and Norman High. I got the chance to sing with them when they came to First Baptist Church. So, for an emotional workout, the Spice Superheroes brought the choir all over Norman through Channel 29.
Do smile stretches and then enjoy an emotional workout with the men of the Zambian a cappella chorus.
Why don't you swing down, sweet Charlie, stop and let me ride. Swing down, sweet Charlie, stop and let me ride. Let me ride. I'm uneasy. I'm on my other side. Why don't you swing down, sweet Charlie, stop and let me ride. Swing down, sweet Charlie, stop and let me ride. Let me ride. I'm uneasy. Why don't you swing down, sweet Charlie, stop and let me ride. I'm uneasy. After all my other side. Don't you swing down, sweet Charlie, stop and let me ride. Swing down, sweet Charlie, stop and let me ride. Let me ride. I'm uneasy. After all my other side. Ready, up from head to head.
That was the Zambian a cappella chorus when they visited Norman in 1993-94 and were guests on Spice. We hope you've enjoyed this look at one of the most unusual shows we've attempted on the school channel, the Allspice Show, featuring a whole class of superheroes here at the high school. Next week on Deja View, we'll help put you in the holiday mood by looking at how the school channel has celebrated the holidays over the last 17 years. So until then, for Amy Marsh and Diane Stowe, I'm Gary Kramer. Have a great week.